your needle actually seats down into this jet like this. And these are just cheap little plastic screws, so if you cross thread them, and these don't have O-rings or anything like that on them, they just thread right in. Guys, we're back for another video, and today we're working on the KTM. Okay, so I'm getting close to that time where I'm ready to ship all my parts off, and I've got a few more that I need to prep before I can send them out. I'm getting a lot of parts vapor honed, I'm getting a lot of parts powder coated, and then I'm going to try Cerakote myself for the first time. So a lot of these parts need to be prepped still, and some of these need to be shipped out. So let me give you kind of an update before we start tearing into the carburetor. Today we're going to work on this Keihin CARB that come off the 125. We're going to strip it down, get all the parts out of it so that we can send it off and get it vapor honed also. So here's my list of parts that are going to get vapor honed. We've got our exhaust cover, our plate. We've got our cylinder. We've got the head of the engine. We've also got this cover here. We're going to try it. I don't know if it'll be able or the clutch cover. Well, no, sorry, this one is not getting vapor honed. This one is actually getting prepped for Cerakote, so it's just going to get blasted. And then we're going to vapor hone the carburetor. And then this one here, I've been struggling with this on what to do here, because I kind of wanted to keep a little bit of contrast between the cases and the actual clutch side cover. But we are going to strip this and get this vapor honed, the water pump cover, and get the actual clutch side cover vapor honed. So this is aluminum, it's not magnesium. So vapor honing this and this, they will look pretty much identical when they're done. So that will set some contrast off between the cases, the outside case cover on the right side, and then I'm going to Cerakote black the clutch cover and the ignition cover. I got a new ignition cover coming because that one had a hole punched in it, if you guys can remember that. So we've got some parts to prep here before we can send them off, but today we're going to take the carburetor apart, strip it all the way down, and get it ready to ship off. And in the meantime, I will come back and take the water pump out and get this prepped also to ship off, so we can get it vapor honed. So let's hop into it. Alright, cool. So we are all set up here. We're going to start tearing into this baby. Now, as far as getting the parts vapor honed, I'm going to just do the body of the carb. I'm not going to do the cap. I kind of like that darker look. It matches the cases, and I think it's pretty sweet. So we're going to go ahead and pull the slide out. And I'm going to talk you guys through this whole process. That way, if you are not familiar with this carb and you're here for this video, that you can understand all the inner workings of it. So obviously the cable is not attached, but this is your spring and your cap for your carb, and this is a keeper for your cable. Now, underneath that is your carb slide, which has your needle, which controls the fuel output through your main jet. So this is what slides up and down in the carburetor, allows air to flow through, and through the Venturi effect, the fuel is drawn through the carb, and you've got your air-fuel mixture. So this part we're not going to worry about getting vapor honed. We don't want to mess with this slide, so we're going to set it aside. All right. Now, as for the all the carb lines here, we're going to keep the little clips, but we are going to rip all the carb lines off, and they are going to get replaced with some sweet neon colored carb line that I have. Same thing that I have on my 450, and it looks killer when it's on there. So I could probably reuse the, well, I know I could reuse these because they're actually fairly soft still, but I like to replace these carb parts because they do dry rot. They get old and they start cracking, and things start wearing out pretty quick. So let me fast forward through this, and then I'll be back in a second. Okay, we got the carb lines off. I'm going to leave this all bundled together because when I come back to this, I need to measure my new carb lines so they end up being the exact same length, and then I'm not guessing as to where to cut my lines, and just makes life go a lot easier. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take off here is going to be the float bowl. It's got 4 Phillips head screws, and that gets the whole thing, totally disconnects the whole thing there. And these carb lines are routed through some keepers right here, these little line holders, I guess you can call them, and that is why I'm taking the bowl off next, and rather than finish pulling my lines off, because they are attached. Okay, I got those screws out. Now this carb, I'm actually not going to rebuild this carburetor as far as like new parts go, because this bike ran so good before I took it apart that I want to see what it does after I get it back together. If I feel like I need to rejet it or do anything different that way, then I will. Okay, so now I've got these off, and now what I can just go ahead and do is pull my carb hoses off, and see they all stayed together. So I'm just going to set this aside for now, and then we will pull the actual bowl off, and that will expose our float, our main jet, our pilot jet, all those other parts there. Holy cow, this carburetor looks amazing. So whoever had this bike before clearly took care of it, as is the common trend with this rebuild on the KTM. So I do have a new float bowl gasket, so I will just remove that one, but we'll set that aside for now. Okay, and now here we have our float, and that is our plunger for our fuel inlet. So our fuel plumbs in through here, and when the float comes up, it plugs off that inlet port, and then when it comes down, it opens up and allows fuel to fill the float bowl. So pretty sweet setup there. Carburetors are really cool. Now, first thing we're going to do here is pull our main jet, which is this one right here. And actually, you know what? Let's do our float bowl first. There's just a pin here, and this is basically with all carburetors. Let me grab a pick. And all you're going to do is just push this pin through with your pick, and it falls out. Set that aside, and then you can just go ahead and remove your float, and maybe if you'll come apart like that. And then right here is your little fuel, God, what do you call this? Your fuel plug, stopper, needle, whatever you call it. And don't lose that little tiny part. And then here's your float. Okay, now we're going to find the right socket. And I think it is a 7, if I remember right. Nope, it is a 6. Okay. Use my quarter drive sockets whenever I work on carburetors, and we're just going to take our main jet out. Now, on these main jets, well, and this is any jet, there's a marking on here. So this one is actually a 188 main jet, and what that's referring to is the size of the port inside of the jet, and that determines when you open up your carb slide, your needle actually seats down into this jet like this. When you open it up, you're actually allowing fuel to flow through the main jet. So your main jet accounts for basically from quarter throttle all the way to full throttle, and then you have a smaller jet over here that is from 0 to quarter throttle. And then the 4-strokes, they have things like accelerator pumps and stuff like that. So in here will be your pilot jet. That one's going to be a flathead screwdriver. So like I said, this is your pilot jet. It just takes a flathead screwdriver, and whenever you're taking these parts out, you want to be very careful not to damage them because they are brass. So if they're really stuck in there, then don't force them. Find the right tool and get them out. So like this one right here, this one's being a pain, so I'm going to get another different screwdriver. Okay guys, literally this jet is not coming out, and I'm actually messing it up. As you can see, it's super tight in there. So what we may end up doing here is just leaving it in there for now until I can get a new one ordered. I think we're going to do that. So we're just going to leave this jet in here. I'm not very impressed with it. This one's been tampered with a little bit. There's the piece right there. So you guys see that fell out? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try one more thing to get that out of there. Well, that did it, oddly enough. I didn't think it would work, but the extractor got it out. So sometimes these jets are just kind of a pain in the butt. Alright, so now that we got it out here, you can see what's happening to it. Hey, at least I can still read it. So this one is a 45. I actually think I have a 45, so that's a good thing. I may not have to order another one. I can get this thing out of here. Maybe not. We'll try it a little bit later. Okay, so with our little hiccup there, we've got our pilot jet out, so that is done. Now that pretty much wraps up the bottom here and what we're going to worry about. I'm not going to have Josh vapor hone the inside of this unless he wants to. It's up to him, but this I'm not worried about right here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out our idle adjustment screw right here, and then we're going to take off our choke. And then we've got a air screw right here, and we're going to pull it out. That's an adjustment that we have that for the air, how much air runs through the carburetor. That's how you adjust that. So we're going to pull that out, and that pretty much wraps up our carb teardown. And these are just cheap little plastic screws, so if you cross thread them, then you're kind of screwed because there's no way to fix it other than to buy a new one. And then we'll pull our choke off, which is just a little, needs a little bit of crescent wrench here. And these don't have O-rings or anything like that on them. They just thread right in. So I think there actually is an O-ring on the actual carb body. No, okay. So on the choke body there's not an O-ring. Some of them have an O-ring on here like my YZ450 does. Okay, and then last but not least, we've got our air screw, which is tucked away right here. We'll back that baby all the way out, like so. And there is a spring, and I think there's a washer in there. Nope, there's not. Okay. Some carbs have little teeny washers in them in places, and it can be kind of confusing as to where they are. So, okay, that is our entire carb tore down. Believe it or not, that's as easy as it gets. Alright guys, that wraps up the teardown of the carburetor. When we get it back from vapor honing, we will reassemble it. That will be in another video, so hang tight. We're getting there. Things are getting shipped off. Things are getting done. So, if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't. And we got a lot more build stuff to come. See you in the next one. Thanks.